I'm holding this upside down.
I can hold the German version.
Welcome to the Nostalgia Train Book Club. This month we read The Maze Runner by James Dashner, published in 2009. Yeah, train conductor this month is the ever chaotic Nina. I was gonna say something sarcastic, but then I was like, let's be real with it.
Thanks.
I actually believe, Nina, you're the one who recommended reading this, or you were a big advocate for reading The Maze Runner, so.
I was a big advocate for reading The Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if it was the best idea, but it's fine.
Oh, I have thoughts, so I'm kind of excited for the discussion.
I also have thoughts.
Yeah, normally we introduce ourselves, but I mean, I think it was just Kit who said hi. Hey, Kit.
Hey, kid.
But we can say what our experience is with the book. This was my first time reading this. I did see this major motion picture that is advertised on the cover at some point. So I looked it up. It said the movie came out in 2014. I didn't see it in theaters, so I probably saw it in 2015 or a year later, maybe 2016. Like I saw it after it came out. It was clear it was not like a new movie when I saw it. I don't know where I saw it, like if it was on a streaming service or played on TV or on an airplane, but I saw the movie at some point. I just saw it once. I haven't seen it multiple times. I've seen the movie one time many years ago. So reading the book, sometimes I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then there are other times I was like, don't remember any of this.
No, I mean, for me, it's it was the first time reading it in English, which I've realized I liked much less than reading it in German for multiple reasons. No, but I read it in German for the first time after I saw the movie because I was so excited about the movie and it was like the best thing at the time because I saw it in theaters and my sister had the book and she gave it to me and I read it in like such a short time. I was obsessed with it. I had a notebook, I still have it somewhere, a tiny notebook where I just wrote down all of the characters' names.
Aww.
And like I had like a cat sticker for each of them, and I wrote down like a quote and like descriptions of them in that
Okay,
tiny notebook.
you were like obsessed. Okay.
I was obsessed. I bought the
Okay.
second book too, and I read the second book, and I didn't read the third book for a reason.
Okay. Okay. So something happened later on the series, then you weren't happy with it, or is that why?
No, I opened the book and spoiled myself, and then I decided I will not read this.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, my only thing going in was I had seen the movie. So I don't know. I'm actually quite glad I read it, even though you said maybe you weren't so happy about suggesting it. Let me pull up a banner. Kit says controversial take. I think the movie is an improvement.
Interesting.
It was, like I said, it was years since I watched it. I have plot and pacing, but I just want to talk about the pacing really quick. I read this in like, I don't know, a day and a half. Like I read this so quick. It was like a very light, easy read. I don't know, like
Yes.
I thought the pacing was great. Like
Yeah, that's also something that I thought when I first read it, and it still holds up today.
yeah,
That
it
the
was very
pacing,
digestible.
exactly. There are some like breathing like moments where you can just breathe, but it's not like drawn out or like there's just action, action, action. Like the pacing feels a lot nicer than a lot of other books. Also a
What?
lot nicer than like the second one, for example. I think the first one really was.
I actually have a question because I think it was Kit in the Discord who said about the plot maybe being being too simple and needed some subplots or something. I maybe disagree. I thought the plot. I'm not sure, Kit, if that wasn't you say. I thought the plot was actually really nicely done, especially for a YA novel. And it was 2009. It wasn't like the YA of today. Like, I don't know. I thought it was really. I think the premise is big enough and to stand on its own without like having adding more convolutedness to the plot.
Yeah.
I think it just felt like a breath of fresh air to me since I read in so many different genres, and I read a lot. So picking this up was like, oh, a really nice, I don't know, palate cleanser book, just like a really, I don't know, easily digestible YA dystopian. You kind of get what's on the tin with this. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it is simpler than a lot of other books, but that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing.
No,
It's
I
not
think when we
simple.
come to themes, there's a lot of themes and
Yeah,
deeper layers that you can take away from this. So,
yeah.
oh
No,
wait, here's what kid is clarifying. I said that I more meant I just wish there was a bit more to it. Like my main thing is I wish some of the characters felt deeper, okay? But I also that I wish we did more and saw more of the actual maze. Okay, that part with the actual maze, I get that. Maybe that's why you're saying about the movie. There is that one big prominent seed in the. Oh, I didn't put up the spoiler banner. Spoilers. Where they where Thomas first like spends the night in the maze.
yeah.
That's kind of like our first like big thing into the maze. Um, but I get that with the characters. You could have felt deeper. Um, that's true, especially since it is a pretty big cast of characters. Um, and
Yeah, I feel like especially like some of the less prominent characters maybe felt a little similar at times.
yeah,
Like the main ones in most circumstances had their own like personality and their own characteristics. But obviously if you have like a lot of characters, some are just gonna feel a little bit samey.
like I know we are on plot, but I'll be honest, Thomas bored me back then and still bored me now. Yeah, I do think
Yeah.
because we are limited to following Thomas as our main character, that it limits how the story can be told. Um, because yeah, he doesn't know what's going on. So in a way, it's a good plot device because we're learning everything alongside of him, but also it does stifle room for depth. But again, because it's a YA novel, I kind of feel like if this was an adult
Yeah.
novel, if you took the same concept and put it for an adult marketing age range, I mean, I think you could, yeah, you could go wild.
Honestly, rereading this kind of made me want to maybe try and read some of the other books.
I want to see me blow my nose.
Some of the other books in this whole like I have a lot of the books, okay? I have the whole series and then I have the two other books, The Kill Order and The Fever Code, which is I think this is the one that follows like how the maze was made basically. I've never read it, so I cannot tell you. But I own all of these books and I didn't read them because I didn't read the third book. And naturally I didn't read the rest. But I kind of want to now. Like
Fair enough, yeah.
I want to see how it ends because I also didn't watch the third movie.
It says, I'm curious how people feel about the use of the amnesia trope in this book. Okay, hold on. I have a banner for that. Dystopian tropes. Of course we have to talk about amnesia.
Not gonna lie. When I read for some reason I had kind of forgotten that was a thing. And I read it and I was like, damn, that's like Anne's book.
Yeah. I was also like, oh yeah, Amnesia. Like it's a huge dystopian
Yeah.
trope, and I forgot all about it. And I was like, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Because like I said, I'd seen the movie, so it's like, oh yeah, I forgot this starts with him like in that cage coming up. Oh yeah, that's what
Yeah.
this story is. I'm like, oh crap, yeah, he doesn't know anything.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think Amnesia, it can be annoying if it's done badly, but it didn't bother me in this book how it was done at all.
Yeah.
I think it made sense for the plot and the world. So
Yeah, I feel like it maybe it wasn't the best representation of the amnesia trope ever, but it also wasn't bad. Like it wasn't like I was reading it and felt like it was unnecessary, but it also like basically having amnesia made a lot of changes to the world and how they behave to how we would behave. I think that is also
yes.
a good explanation for a lot of things that are happening at the Glade.
I also think that James Dasher did something pretty smart, which before I could start questioning it as a reader, he kind of he had Thomas think these internal thoughts where he would be like, "Oh, it's just like, like if he thought something about the regular world, oh, it's just like, neighbors doing this." Or anytime he would use sort of like an analogy or something, he'd be like, "I don't know how I know what Christmas is," or "I don't know how I know what this emotion or feeling is."
Yeah,
He would call it out. It was like almost very self-aware in that way, to
yeah,
where it's like, "Oh, okay." Because if he would have just said that and not put that in, we would have just dragged it over the coals. Like, you can't do that if he
yeah,
doesn't remember anything.
yeah,
And he was very consistent with being, with how the amnesia kind of worked. Sorry. And I thought it was very cool, how, they remembered their own name, and some of them had like gut feelings, like, was Gally had the gut feeling, right? About Thomas, like, oh, I know that I know you. Right? Is he the one?
yeah. I think so. I think,
And then they end up being kind of enemies.
yeah,
Um, and then he had the gut feeling about Teresa.
oh yeah,
Like, so it's like, I know that I know you, but I don't know how I know you, but I know that I know you. So it's like there were these things in it. I don't know. I liked it. What other
yeah. I also
dystopian
like.
tropes were there? Hold on, let's read Kit's comment. I will say too, this day, I love the way the opening is written. Yeah, with that cage
Yeah,
elevator. Like the opening is done well. I literally use the scene to teach writing tension to my students. Yeah, it's true. It's cool. It's a cool opening. Yep. Oh yeah, tropes. We were on tropes. Sorry, I got distracted.
I mean,
I'm
obviously, a big trope in this is the whole being separated from society and like um a small group of people fighting to survive, which is like
yeah,
very popular in dystopian. But I feel like in this one, I like that in this one, it wasn't said like, oh, the world was destroyed and those people lived and in this small confined space.
yeah,
But you kind of like questioned why in the world would they put a bunch of teen and young adult boys inside of a maze.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely. I liked that there was just this giant mystery and question mark overall, especially again like beating a dead horse, like as a YA novel, introducing like dystopian. I know this came out I think a year after Hunger Games, because I think Hunger Games was 2008. So this was like right in the prime
Yeah,
time. But I mean, it's such a different flavor of dystopian,
yeah,
um,
for sure.
that well, maybe it's a similar flavor, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's
It's
it's both sushi, but different kinds of sushi.
Yeah, it's unique. It's unique enough to I feel like give readers a different idea of what's going on with these different tropes. What else was I going to say? Oh, I definitely think another sci-fi trope, or not sci-fi, well, yeah, sci-fi, but just general dystopian. Um, I'm losing my head. Is not really trusting what is real and what is technology.
Yeah.
This kind of mix between, because especially when they start to like the sky glitches or something, like there was that scene,
Yeah.
and even like the grievers themselves are like mechanical or partly
Yeah.
mechanical, right? So it's like, yeah, they're like, oh, it's just like, I don't know. There's like moments where they're like, they kind of, there's, they understand that somebody's sending something. And
Yeah.
there's that younger boy. What's his name? Chuck.
Chuck. Yeah.
And he's very naive, I think, to the idea that, hey, somebody put us in here and is doing this stuff to us, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and the older boys are like, yeah, this is like something's fucked up is going on here. Like, somebody's like sending us these supplies and sending us up in these boxes. This is not happening like by accident. This isn't organically happening.
Yeah.
So, definitely
Oh,
cool.
oh, Chuck.
I will say this links to dystopian. I think the reason I like this less this time around is that I have read Lord of the Flies since I last read it. Yeah, it definitely felt very Lord of the Flies, and all the dystopia feels the most. Of all the dystopia, this feels most Lord of the Flies. Yeah, Lord of the Flies is a book that I've considered doing also for the book club. Um, but yeah, this reminded me of it too. Just the idea of sort of feral boys and
Mm-hmm.
being isolated, getting their own sort of systems up, and they do get their own systems up. Hold on, I have a banner for this too. Setting and world building. Um, they kind of build their own like social roles within the glade.
Yeah.
They have their own hierarchy. Even when Thomas comes, he's the greenie. He's
Yeah.
the new kid, the new guy. And a lot of the other boys and the gladers, they're like very standoffish towards him. They don't want to answer any of his questions. They don't really want to give him the time of day. That's why he ends up hanging out with Chuck, just this naive little kid.
Yeah. Oh, I love Chuck.
I mean, clearly a lot of the world building is a mystery because, like we said,
Yeah.
they don't know why,
Yeah.
but they do know a few things for sure. Like that the maze is constantly changing.
Yeah.
The grievers always come out at night. Not only, but always. Um, what else is some things that they? Oh, one boy every month, right? That was
Yeah.
the rule.
I mean, I watched the movie before I read the book. So a lot of the like I never had like was able to picture everything just from my own imagination. Also the characters. I just have the actors in my head,
Ah,
obviously. Um so I remember when I read it, I all of the things they described were kind of erased from my brain because when I think about it, I think about it as it is in the movie. But I feel like it is really fun, kind of the idea of just them being like in the middle of this maze. Like if you look from it from above, you see a maze and then this square of like grass and sheep and people.
yeah, there was quite a lot of them, right? Like they say at one point or at several points, like the numbers that they had. I can't remember exactly,
Yeah,
but there wasn't just a few boys there were several.
yeah.
Um,
And also the fact that they have animals.
Yeah, like I said, I
Was
had only seen the movie once, and it had been, like I said, years and years ago, and that was
yeah,
my only um, knowledge of the Maze Runner. So for me, I didn't remember the actors
yeah,
um, or anything. So I was, yeah, visualing everything. Some of the plot points I remembered, but um, I mostly just remembered the bare bones things, the cage at the beginning, and I remembered obviously that he goes into the maze at some point, and then at the end that there's like a lab. That was what I
yeah,
remembered about the Maze Runner. If somebody would have asked me.
yeah. No, I also when I think about what I'm saying, I also try to not like mention anything from the second book because obviously spoilers.
Yeah, I have
Um,
no knowledge of what happens after this book.
yeah,
But I
I
feel
read
like
the
the
second
book
book.
goes further than where the movie went, but I could have been wrong.
There is a lot of difference from what I remember. There is actually quite a lot of differences between the movie and the book because I remember I watched the movie and loved it, and I read the book and loved the book even more because of these differences. Like even a lot of the interactions between Thomas and the characters, especially Teresa, are very different, and the end is also, at least the like, what would it be? Break into three, probably, is also different to what I at least remember the movie being. Like the sky turning like gray, everything's just dying,
Yeah.
basically. Which is one of the scenes that impacted my writing so much. Just this visual of the sky basically turning off.
That was a cool scene.
That has been in my head ever since I read this book.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely is a standout scene. I also thought that description was really like, yeah, because it's a very shocking image. And obviously, like us
Yeah.
as the reader, as like adult readers and being familiar with the story, obviously we know what's going on, but like I could see like, oh, well, like it's cool. It's a cool moment. And that some of the boys in the maze like are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
um that- I'm looking at my I don't know if I want to bring it back to the plot because there are some things about the plot that I still want to discuss.
Yeah.
um, just because there were just some cool things, like how the memories, when they got bit by the griever,
Yeah.
they got some of their memories back, and I thought that was such a cool plot point that Thomas then purposefully went out to get
Yeah.
bit. I didn't remember this at all from the movie, so I was like, ah, I thought that was really like clever of him, like it was smart. But the other guys kind of knew what was up there. Like, hey, that didn't seem like an accident.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked that plot point. I thought it was really perfect for
I feel like it was an
what it needed to
interesting
accomplish.
use of the monsters for them to not just be monsters, but
Yeah,
like they one way or another like had a purpose in pushing the plot forward and not just being an obstacle.
yeah, because of course, you want your memories back, but you don't want to get bit by one of these things. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like this thing where like nobody would go out of their way, but like he wants to know so badly, and he knows it's the only way.
Yeah.
So I found that pretty cool, and we haven't really. I guess I do have a banner for characters. Talking about characters, because I guess that brings up Teresa, who it's very cool when she's introduced, because I feel like it's like this oh shit moment, like
Yeah. A
what's
girl.
going on? It's a girl, a new guy just came yesterday. Why is somebody new coming? And it's a girl, and there's this note on her, and what the hell's going on? Like it's
Yeah.
really like this. It throws things into a tailspin. Um, So in a way, it's like, okay. In a way, like she almost has more main character energy because of that. But then it's nice that we're following Thomas because, like, obviously, he makes more sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, she's pretty much not part of it most of it because she's kind of like passed out, passed out dream girl.
I mean, I have a lot of strong thoughts on a lot of the characters, especially Teresa. Not as much as one of the characters in the second book, which I just hate with a fiery burning passion. But I don't like Teresa. I never liked Teresa. I cannot tell you exactly why.
Oh, okay. So something happens. Spoilery.
No, not even no, that's not it's not even like the second
Oh,
book. I just never really liked her. But also my favorite character was just always Newt. Like
oh,
I was
okay.
a Newt girly through and through.
Uh, I think like with Teresa, I think it was cool that we got this sort of telepathy
Yeah.
trope because that's a favorite trope of mine. So I love to see that implemented. And I have to say that stayed with me when I was like after I finished the book. I kept thinking about some of the like this telepathic bond. It's just one of my favorite tropes. So to see it in this book, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I didn't know this was in here. This is really cool.
No, I
Um,
did really like this. Like I liked the things that she a lot of the things that she brought to the story. I just don't like her like as a character, but I don't know if that is also like my mind being tainted from the movie because she's very different from what I remember in the movie. And I saw the movie first, so I already didn't like her.
okay, okay, that could be why. Yeah.
But no, I feel like a lot of the other characters were a lot cooler in the book than in the movie. And as I said, I'm a Newt girly. I always loved Newt in the movie, loved Newt IRL. Not gonna lie, in the English one, he sounds very cringe all the time. Um, which he didn't in the German one. There were so many differences, like little differences, that really made me question all the choices I've made in the past. But yeah, no, I still like Newt. Um, and I also love Chuck. And in this book, in the first one, at least I don't remember actually what my thoughts were in the second on him, but I like Mino. He's he's kind of I feel like he's one of the characters that needs to grow on you.
I liked him. I liked him. Um, uh, yeah, I didn't have a strong opinion, I guess, about any of the boys. I think they all like played their role quite well. Um, I think I'm just sort of like I think maybe I just like Chuck because he's the only one who was nice.
Yeah, no, I also love Chuck. I
But Minho
he's
is good
yeah.
later. Like you get to see more of him later in the story as well. So I liked him. Yeah, it did feel like a big cast to me. But I guess I am somebody who I guess I like a small cast of characters. Or
Yeah, me too though.
maybe
I
it's just
did get a
because
little
they were
overwhelmed.
all boys. They didn't like stand out as much. Like I don't know, and
Yeah,
because they're also clustered together, it just something about the characters felt claustrophobic to me at times.
yeah. There are a lot of people, a lot of boys that all had amnesia and therefore made new memories together. So obviously it's very
Yeah, so same in
yeah.
that way because how can you set characters apart in a situation like that? Like, oh yeah, they look different. Like one is older, one is younger, or things like that.
But you
Um,
can't like
or
that
who
can
was
be
it?
something that you
Ben
mention, but that
was
can't be
it?
something you mention all the time. Like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time
yeah,
they show up, you can't mention that. So the distinction is kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was just, and especially since a lot of them had, yeah, like you said, the same sort of experiences, and it led them to have the same opinions on things. Like, this is how it is done.
Yeah.
Later, obviously, they have like a little bit of a meeting, or I don't know, did they use a special word for this, like trial meeting thing they had, um, to talk about Thomas going into the maze,
Yeah.
and the consequences. But like before that, they're all pretty much, this is how we do things here. Don't
Yeah.
complain, don't explain. Like, um, I will say that I did appreciate this book, not say boohoo me, but in a time where YA was very much dominated with female protagonists, which I never mind. I did enjoy reading the book. Yeah, I mean, I liked it as well. I mean, I also think Thomas was a good, like I said, a good main character.
Yeah.
Um, because I think sometimes he didn't. Okay, I mean, I guess you could argue that he gets a little bit Gary Stu because he's so good at like going into the maze. But I
Yeah.
feel like he has some of his thunder taken off of him so early with the fact that Teresa arrives, and it's like, okay, you're already not the interesting thing. There's already something way cooler happening.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. We're not explaining anything to you, Greenie. And he keeps being like, I'm not the Greenie anymore. If they like still keep calling him that.
No, I feel like it was a good choice, but also an interesting choice, considering what happens basically right after he gets there, like with Teresa.
Yeah.
I don't want this, but like this is something where like an author would write like a book again. I don't know if that has been done. I kind of hope not, but from the point of view of Teresa, like Midnight Sun.
Yeah. Oh God, Midnight Sun. Yeah, that's true. I do feel like Dystopian was really female MC driven. That's a good
Yeah.
observation, kid. I'm trying to think of what the other big ones were, and they are all like they pretty much all were. He's so good at the maze. Yeah, when you find out why,
Yeah.
there's some satisfaction there. Yeah, the fact that he has this little, I do think he was a good protagonist. Um, yeah. And even when he decides to break the rules and go into the maze,
Yeah.
he didn't come off as like an arrogant shit, like in some books. I know sometimes the protagonist just is unlikable because of they're like, so macho. But that
Yeah.
didn't, he clearly was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're so standing behind your rules and not going to
Yeah.
save him just because of that. Like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
I
so
feel
us
like
as the reader, like, this is common sense. Like,
yeah.
that made him likable.
Yeah, I feel like that was like a nice contrast between Thomas and the other boys, because he was still obviously in this phase where he was so confused where he was, what the hell is going on, and who all these people are, why he is here. And he was not only curious, but he wanted to figure out why. Like he obviously he needed it for himself, kind of. And he also hadn't lived there that long. So everything that they knew and everything that they had experienced, he had not. So
Yeah.
as like the greenie, he obviously hadn't doesn't have the same experience as them, and therefore makes different choices, which I think is a nice contrast to the very strict people who like follow the rules very strictly.
Yeah. I mean, he hadn't been there that
Yeah.
long. He did know the consequences though, because the book
Yeah.
showed that as an example. But at the same time, he hadn't had, I don't want to say indoctrination, but like he hadn't been
Yeah.
living in that environment where he wasn't like a glader through and through. So he wasn't he was still thinking, I guess, rationally. It wasn't his whole existence yet.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did I write that one? Homecoming and Create the Maze was a great concept. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think that's actually what this one is about. The Fever Code. That's about Thomas and how like the maze was created, which I again haven't read, but I remember I bought it because I was interested in kind of maybe I will read it because I'm still interested in like seeing the actual like behind the scenes kind of
Hey,
because it
maybe.
is such a strange like thing. Like he makes a maze and then he suddenly ends up there.
Yeah, that is kind of cool, actually. Prose and writing style. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I have thoughts on this. One of my thoughts is the made up
Yeah. Okay.
swears.
Yeah. Okay.
They sound like you're talking to a child and try so hard not to swear. It's that, and the thing that actually drove me crazy was the amount of semicolons. Every sentence has at least one semicolon. It literally drove me crazy.
Yeah.
But again, I looked at the ones in German and I was like, why did I think this was cool? Like when I first read the book, I was like, that's so cool. Like such cool new words.
Yeah.
Little me.
The weird Glader slang. It was weird because, as like Thomas like kind of showed with the amnesia, like he has this like under knowledge of like everything from the real world. So then why would they
No
come up with their
swear
own
words.
like slang for things? It didn't make any sense. That was the one part of the world building that just felt like the author was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, we need to make this feel more dystopian and cool. Let's give them like some weird like later terms."
It's so stupid.
It was really cringe.
Every single time I cringed when I read it. I was like, oh no. Like some are worse than others though. I feel like, and some just instances where they use it are just ooh
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it.
no.
Especially when they would like explain it, when it seemed some of it was like so self-explanatory, and they would be like, you know, the uh, what was it like? What did they call the like the doctors of the place? Like the menders, and they'd be like, oh, like menders, like or whatever it was, like something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's like very obvious what it is. They'd be like, oh, I guess that's the healing people here. Like no shit. Like what the
Yeah.
like what else could have that been? Like I don't know. Like it'd be like examples like that where it was like, why are we overly explaining this? Like why are we like, why can't you just call them like something regular? Like why does it have to be? I don't know.
Yeah.
The prose is very simple. I'm not going to drag the description because I guess he was working with a limited palette, but could have been helpful if we saw more of the maze. Yeah, the prose itself I found very digestible.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got through the book very quick. The writing style was clear and straightforward, which I like. It was only the Glader slang that I
For me, it would have been easier if there had been less semicolons, but I literally marked some of them. Like I underlined some of them because of it was really, really annoying me. And I don't know why, but it just was. I just looked at. I have again. I have 9 pages annotated in quotations. Not a lot. One of them just says "kinda cringe." 2, ain't no ticket back, bro. Like, why do they have "bro" as a slang, but then they use shock face and shank.
Like it's yeah. Like I could understand doing a little bit of slang for things that were very specific to the glade. Um, oh yeah, about the grievers or maze specific slang. That makes sense. That's just like world building
Yeah.
terms. But like things that already like existed, like I don't think needed.
Yeah, I feel like some of them are just ways for the author to swear without swearing because he's not allowed to do that in a way. Like, shuck it. That's basically just fuck it. Let's be real here. That's just. Or shut it. Like, it's
Why
just a
authors not allowed to swear in 2009?
I don't know, but maybe he
'Cause
just
they are
didn't
now.
want yeah. Maybe he just didn't want to risk it.
That could be, yeah, trying to.
But like,
It was a different time. That's true.
but sometimes it read like a fever dream. Some of these slang terms.
Okay, I have one last topic, which is my favorite: themes, symbols, and motifs. I mean, I think there's a lot of underlayer to the text that we could get into because, like Kit pointed out, it does have a lot of like parallels to like Lord of the Flies and yeah, the idea of like this isolated male society and what boys do on their own. And even just like how society sees boys and uses boys. I mean, there's definitely something there that you can mash together into a theme.
Yeah, for sure. There's also just, there's just it's like basically a big patriarchy because it can't be anything else.
Yeah. It can't be anything else. And they did make their own little government, which I thought was. Yeah, they have rules.
They have rules, and I feel like I don't know, obviously, but it feels like James Dashner also just wanted to show like, oh, if you leave boys alone, then they make these rules. Like one of these reality shows where they put people somewhere. It's how would a bunch of teen boys make a society with limited.
Yeah, and especially since like bad things happened too, like them punishing each other when they go against something. So it's kind of like almost like a theme, like if you put children in this situation, they would also come back to these same horrific things that adults have been doing forever. Like humanity will even inflict in a microcosm, even in the young, I guess, something like this.
I mean, it also.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I mean, it also kind of speaks on the whole concept of survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people most adapt will survive, but also other people will die. Like, those are a bunch of teen boys, and people just die, and they accept it like it is. It's just an everyday thing.
Yeah, I just think death is a major theme or motif in general, and almost about like the nonchalance of death, like as you said, like and even when you zoom all the way out from the situation and you think about on the outside when they're like, oh, we expected more to die, or like what did they say, like they make some comment like that, like you guys actually did really well, like this many of you survived, like it's just like so bleak, like what the fuck, like and they're still reeling because like after they had just got out, like a couple big cast members had died in that who died? Galley was the mean guy, he died, right? And then Chuck died? Is that right? Did I just make that up?
No, I think you're correct. I wait. I think so. I think once again, I think I definitely vividly remember um
Well, anyways, a
the
few of
movie
the big
scene.
characters die like right at the end. So like
Yeah,
the fact that they had just got out, like Thomas hasn't had time to process like some of this death that just happened
yeah,
before his eyes, and then to hear like, oh, like so many of you guys made it. It's like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
and especially Chuck's death, which I looked up. You are correct. That happens. Is like I feel like one of these major parts of his character development
Yeah.
because other people died and you know that he cares that people live, but Chuck was there for him the entire time. So when Chuck
Yeah, Chuck,
dies,
like if we're talking about symbols, Chuck is really a symbol of innocence and in boyhood,
yeah,
of really of boyhood, because some of the others are older teens are really on the brink of manhood, where Chuck is really sort of like the symbol of like boyhood and innocence. And
and
for
I feel like he also kind of like embodies hope.
in
Like he's
hope,
a
yeah.
very hopeful character and he always tries to make the best of a bad situation and then he dies and I feel like that's probably
And then
also like a
all those
symbol for like
ideals die. Boyhood is dead.
yeah,
Innocence
exactly.
is dead.
Yeah.
Hope is dead.
I feel like the death
Fuck
of
you
Chuck
guys.
was the author's way of showing that whatever innocence and hope Thomas had
Yeah.
left is now dead.
Yeah. That's what I said. I mean, I feel like the book is simple, but
Yeah.
it is saying things. It is packing a punch when you actually get in and dissect it. Um,
I do remember sobbing when I read Chuck's death scene, and I had seen the movie, so I knew it was happening.
yeah,
But I
I guess
just love Chuck.
I guess at that point in the novel, I was just so into what was going on. Like I was like, what? I guess I just expected a bunch of them to die. So I was like, of course they're gonna kill Chuck, those fuckers.
Yeah, of
Like,
course they're gonna kill Chuck.
yeah, I just knew it. But Chuck has to die because them leaving the maze is the death, any shred of hope. Yep. Innocence and childhood is gone. Yep. And they've become men. Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly the themes and symbols that Dashner was trying to convey. Um, and it shows like it wasn't just like some writers just throw in death for shock value, but no, I do really think death was a big part of this novel that you really saw.
yeah, and I
And
feel like
even
it
them
had
talking
a
about like even that scene we talked about Thomas at the very beginning going into the maze when it was going to close at the end of the night
yeah,
to save those guys. They're like, nope, they're toast. Everybody else was
yeah.
like, nope, they're dead.
But I feel like death had like a reason to be there, as you said, and not wasn't just thrown in. Because on one hand, it showed how indifferent they were to the idea of death and people dying and how normal it was, but also like everyone who died, like from like the break into three until the finale, basically, everyone who died kind of showed that this is such a dangerous place and that no matter how much you try, you cannot save everyone
Yeah.
because they tried. They tried to save people. And then at the end, they think, they did it. And
Because
they didn't.
they had thought that they had this thing where the grievers would kill one and then like it would reset them and then they would
Yeah.
be satisfied, and that was not what happened. um Fucking
And obviously,
grievers.
running through a maze with a bunch of monsters with a bigger group of people can't end well. But if it's like if it's the only option, what are you to do? I think all of them were somewhat prepared that they would be dead, that they would not get out of there and just die.
Yeah. I also think maybe there's an interesting maybe I don't know if it's a symbol or a motif of like being like trapped in a cage, because the maze itself feels like a cage, and it's like
Yeah.
in the glade is in this bigger thing of a cage, and they also have like the slammer, their little jail, which is like also this little cage. and like they
Yeah.
come up in the box of the little cage. So maybe there is like this motif of like, I don't know, putting men in cages and trying to control
Yeah.
humans by
It's like
putting them in
a
cages.
it's like when they put mice in a maze
Yeah,
and they
yeah, yeah.
they see if they can figure out a way out. Like they put a bunch of boys in a maze and wanted to see if they could figure out how to get
But
out of
isn't
there.
there something? I mean, I do felt like I felt like there's something a little bit like ironic about the part when they were like putting each other in their little slammer, their little jail, where it was
Yeah.
like they're already in like this maze, like they're already trapped, and they're putting that each other inside of a jail, inside of like jail like
Yeah.
setting that they're already in. Like I'm like, oh, this is like layers, like
Layers of jail.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, lab rat energy for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think that there's something to that. Yeah, total lab rat energy. Um,
I feel like it is if Lab Rats and the Truman Show had a baby.
I mean, there's, and I do feel like at the end when they get out, I I thought that the book was just going to end, that they were going to get that revelation. It was just going to end because I think that's how I remembered the movie ending, but maybe it wasn't. But that's not what happened. You kind of got a little bit more. It didn't just cut off immediately, and because yeah, it set them up at their next
Yeah.
location. Um, I think I wasn't expecting that. And then you kind of get this twist where like it was all part of they're supposed to think that they're still in the system or something, like I don't know,
Yeah.
this little hee hee.
But also
I
the
don't know.
fact that like the bad people are called wicked was a little on the nose.
Yeah.
I mean,
When
I
it when they first had the thing Wicked in the maze, like they had it like written, he saw it, and then when she came on it said Wicked is good. I was like, what's going on, like this is so cool. And then later when you find out like, oh, okay, it's actually not that cool. But at
yeah,
first I thought it was going to be something cool because I didn't remember that it was the name for the thing.
yeah.
And then I was like, oh yeah, actually that's kind of dumb.
Oh yeah. In German, it's Angst. So for anyone who doesn't know,
Oh
fear. Just looked it up because it was like Wicked didn't. I remember that when I read it, Wicked didn't seem familiar, but I didn't look it up. But now I looked it up. It's basically fear. So they which is funny because wicked and fear are not the same kind of word.
no, very different
They're very
words.
different.
Yeah. But sometimes because it's supposed to be an acronym, right? Wicked is supposed to be an acronym for something. So when you're doing translations and you need an acronym, you kind of gotta
Yeah.
do your best.
Yeah.
I don't envy translators who have to translate sci-fi and fantasy,
No.
especially when they're in
Especially
series and you don't know
and
what's coming.
I mean, this with all of the slang words, they gave up on Greenie. It's just the new one, basically. They gave up on Greenie. They were like, no, we did all of these. We are not gonna do Greenie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's all I have to say about the Maze Runner. I'm putting down the banner. I need a closing thoughts banner. I don't think I have one. I'll make one eventually. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the Maze Runner. Do you have any closing thoughts, Nina?
I feel like I still liked it and I still treasure it as part of Little Me's favorite book. But I also realized that there was a lot of cringy stuff that Little Me didn't. So when I read it again sometimes I just, cringed a lot and was like, oh, why was this my life? But also, I still like it, and I still kind of want to read like other books in this series to like see if they hold up,
Yeah.
especially the second one, because the second one I did read.
I'll check if my library has them. Otherwise, maybe I'll just spoil myself and read a Wikipedia summary or something.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
is
can
there
tell you,
movies for the whole series or just?
yeah, there is. I've only seen so when I read the second book, I really didn't like it. At some point, I felt it was boring. Didn't want to stop. Watch the movie. Hated the movie. With the second movie is nothing like the second book though. Like there is basically that they are basically two completely different things. But I hated the movie, so I went back and actually finished reading the book. um but the movie and the book are very, very different. So
Ah,
even if
okay.
people have just seen the movie, I feel like half of the things that happen in the movie just don't happen in the book. In this
Ah,
for the
okay.
second one.
So if I just skipped the books and went to the movie, it wouldn't be inaccurate.
Yeah, but also I didn't read the third one and the second book wasn't that good. Not gonna lie. The first one was definitely the peak, but I think the second book had major second book syndrome.
Hmm.
Like in a trilogy, the middle book.
Kit is bringing up a good point here. It could have been gayer, like all those boys trapped. You're telling me gay stuff didn't happen more. Um, that's a good point. I also was wondering about this because there wasn't really a lot of romance going on at all. Even like when
Yeah.
Teresa arrived, a couple guys made like a comment like, "Oh, is she pretty?" But that was like it. Like you would have thought maybe there would have been a little bit more romance in general happening. Boys have hormones, so I agree with Kit.
Yeah.
Gay stuff would have been happening. Straight stuff would have been happening when Teresa showed up. I think guys would have been getting a fist fights over her. Things
For
would have
sure.
things. There was not enough accurate um, teenage hormones going on, especially for a YA novel. When you think of all the
Yeah.
other YA dystopians, they all had romantic subplots. I mean, this had like was there something going on between Thomas and Teresa? I don't think so. Or did was there?
I
Kind of.
I think that there was definitely some hinting at it.
Yeah, but so subtle that it's like
Yeah.
not swoon worthy romance. Like not a subplot. I wouldn't call it like. Um, yeah, it didn't feel romantic in any way. So Thomas had more chemistry with Newt than Teresa.
But that is so true.
Yeah, yeah. I would give Kit this because he said that the book, the plot felt a little bit lacking. It could have used some romantic subplots, even if it
Yeah.
wasn't Thomas himself having something going on. You would think some of the other
Yeah.
boys would have maybe crushes or things, gossip, or
Yeah.
a little bit something going on. Um, that it, yeah, especially for the genre, I feel like in YA it's almost expected to just have it a little bit more. Um, so I understand maybe in 2009 he didn't want to go full homoerotic, but like,
But also,
you could, Sam and Frodo, like, for more like, you can write bros that everybody gets the subtext of.
yeah.
It's not that hard. Um, it's not that hard. Okay, I think we need to end the stream.
No more homoerotic discussion.
No,
Isn't that a banner?
this is like when we had the Hunger Games. They're like, so if people in the Hunger Games start having sex with each other, do they just keep filming it? Is it like teen porn? It's like, okay, that's like the point in the discussion where it's like, I think we need to stop. So sometimes this crap happens when adults read books for teens and children. Anyways, thank you, Nina, for being the conductor of the train this month.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kit, and any lurkers who were watching or people on the replay. Keep your eye on our Instagram and Discord server for the next picks because I have not finalized them. Bye. Oh, wait, I have to roll the outro.